I'll go ahead and kick this off. So, hey everyone, welcome to another Beyond the Rhythm podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Benito from Way Higher Music. I have my co-host here, Asia the Writer. We're really excited tonight to bring you another episode. We have a special guest with us tonight. Her name is Betty Grier. She's a very talented artist manager, and she also owns her own small record company, and we're very excited to ask her some questions tonight. So Betty, thank you for being with us tonight. We'll give you a round of applause, and we're going to get into some questions. So I want to start off just kind of asking about your start. Where did you first get your love for music in the industry?
I've always been singing growing up. I had my own music group, as a matter of fact, 2 guys, 2 girls, and we started singing in high school.
Okay.
And so we used to do shows in the area. We had a manager, a manager. So I've always loved music. And I actually come from, my family has always sang. My mom used to sing. She's from North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina. And so she, believe it or not, she sang at one time with a gospel singer. Her name was Shirley Caesar. You might have heard from Shirley. She sang. Yeah. And my mom sang. And my brother used to, back at that time, do doo-wop on our porch. And he started out, we lived Montclair at that time, Frankie Valley, Four Seasons, and he used to, that was that little Italian area, and we were right there near, and so I'd always go over there. But he sang as well. He used to hang out and run around and play with Frankie Valley, and he sang for a minute with Clyde McPhatter and the Platters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
That's
I've
cool.
had a singing family. So yeah.
That's excellent. That's it. So you had a little stint yourself singing, right? How did that start and go?
I did. I actually decided that I, wanted to sing, and at that time, you really, which I still enjoyed, singing with the band, singing. You sang a cappella most of the time. If you wanted to do something and you went to an audition, they said, okay, you want to do this, sing. So you opened your mouth and you sang.
Yep.
There's no music, you just sang. And so I like when I was 14, I had an older sister. I'm the baby. Okay. And so she took me, my mom and dad allowed us to go to the city, and I had seen something that they were accepting. They wanted singers, and there was some clubs. It was right there. As a matter of fact, I'm taking myself back here. But anyway, we went, and I walked in, and similar thing. Here to apply for that, I want to do that, and so he said, okay, sing. So I started singing, and I remember, I don't know why I remember this song, Dionne Warwick's song, Alfie. And I started singing, and I think I got halfway through it, and he said, okay, stop. You're high, let's do it. And they had songwriters and everything. They were just looking for people to sing and record.
Wow.
So that's how I got started. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you are an artist manager, you're CEO of your own record label, and you own a publishing agency. So can you tell us, I guess, what it takes to be all those things, and how do you find the time?
I said today, it's always so funny because I say it all the time. I spend more time dealing with music and not so much publishing, but recording and buying beats and having, in the studio with them. We do a lot of FaceTiming than I do on my regular job. Music is I don't want to say 24-hour, but it's not 8 hours. It's not even 10 hours. And where my guys are now, again, one now, but where they are in Lagos, Nigeria. And so they are 5 hours ahead of me. So, but I had to get used to. I'm used to it now, but in the beginning, when I tell you I was exhausted all the time, because the normal thing would be if something was happening, or they would wake up in the morning, and they're waking up in the morning, and it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So they would call me. We have WhatsApp. They'd call me, and it took them a minute to say, you know what, guys, but it's 3:30. Or it's 3 o'clock, or I know I don't want to talk about that right now. And I got to the point where you say that, but then you say one more thing and then another thing, and pretty soon you're in a conversation. So at that point, I'm awake, I'm up. So I was, I'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We would talk, things that were coming up and music and whatever. So I'm much better now, but I just got kind of used to it. I know I've had them say to me, "Do you ever sleep?" And I'm like, I am, but I hear when my phone beeps or whatever, I hear it. So
yeah. That's interesting, because I think for a lot of us, like me in Asia, are producers and artists, and I think you know sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes you have to give up those nights, and you're up and you just doing it and you love it. So
yeah, and it's hard. It's hard being in the same time zone. So I can imagine
in a different one, right? Yeah, especially when they are now. Richie, for example, he's out tonight doing. He's not performing, thank goodness, but he is like, for some reason, I don't know if it's the culture. When they do, like, I'll see a flyer now, and it'll say there's a show. It's a regular club. And they, of course, perform. They do, they have the DJ and they perform. But they don't even go on or start going on until 10 o'clock at night. So they're expected to be up all night. So again, if they're out doing a performance, then I'm usually in touch with them, or, with Richie. And it could be because I want to make sure they're okay. I know they are. But again, I'm just used to, I know they're going to call me at some point, and I'm on the phone 2 or 3 times. So yeah, it's all night. For whatever reason, that the African culture, the motherland culture, is just all night. It's all night. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I want to kind of back up a little bit, Betty, and I want to talk about how you kind of transitioned from being an artist to being a manager and having your own record company. So how did that come about? I guess you probably were, singing, and then you transitioned into what you're doing now.
Yeah, I actually had slowed down a lot on the performing. And when I, obviously people say that you sing in church, okay. And I was still doing some performance. Then I had slowed down on that. But then when I decided to get back into it, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be on the front end or, and I'm not really, I like a small, intimate, as opposed to being in a big venue and whatever. So I could be in the studio, for instance, and record, because I have recorded, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to be out there again like that. So I just started, I wasn't really looking at, what happened was there was a day where a year ago they were doing, it wasn't the Grammys, it was another award show. And I happened to be in the city, and I looked, and you know how Times Square and there's flashing, and you see they're showing artists and they're showing names of songs. And as I was looking at it, I didn't know any of the artists. They were just African artists. And I'm like, I've heard that song. I didn't know that. I didn't know, but so I just started paying attention. I don't think I watched the show, but I read the next day who was winning, and I'm looking at all these names, Davido and Burna Boy and Adekunle Gold and, and I'm like, who are these people? So I started really, and I had never really been on Instagram a lot. I was on Facebook quite a bit. And so.
All right, Betty. So can you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from being an artist? I assume you were going that route, and you decided to make your way into the music agent side and the record company side. Can you tell us how that happened?
Yeah. And so as I was saying, I saw that, and then it made me start listening to music, but I started listen at the African artists, the motherland artists. And I was just listening to different music. There's so much talent. And I was listening to different singers. And my first artist, of course, Richie, at the time it went by the name of The Only Richie. And I heard, when I was hearing something, the first thing he had done was called Bounce. And when I heard it, I really liked it. There was a dancer, a friend of his had done a dance to it, and it was really nice. And I'm like, wow, I was just really surprised. And so I was listening to other things, and that's what made me, you comment, I was on Instagram. Instagram was still new to me, pretty much. I'm used to Facebook at the time, of course. And so I commented. And at that point, it was like, I think there was an amazement of, wow, you're in the United States and you're commenting on and they appreciate that. They can appreciate that. So that's how I came to know Richie. I did not really plan to have any other artists at that point because one, was new, and I'm like, okay, let's do it this way because I like his music. I think that he could go places. I think that we could make this work. And so that's how I became, at that point when we were talking, it was like, and I said, are you interested in having a manager? Because the biggest problem over there, I think, is they have organizations, but not like here. And a lot of times with the music, you'll make something, but anybody can use it because they don't copyright, or they weren't, it's not a big deal. Certain things are not. And even when I became the manager, there's so much to learn. There's so much you have to do. But yeah, that's how I met Richie. And of course, at one point he changed his name at that time was The Only Richie, but Instagram did a thing where sometimes your page will come down. And so it had come down. He had maybe around 16, 17,000 followers at that point. He had a good following, but it came down once, came down twice. So he said, maybe it's too many Richies, and I think it probably was. And so he just chose, 2 Demirs. Ugo, and we can pronounce Ugo. Same kind of thing. I was looking, and that's what made me actually, when I was on YouTube and things like that, to look at the videos, there were songs that I was hearing that I really liked. I just didn't know who made them. And so same thing with at that time, he was using the name iJazz. And I was watching, I was on Instagram and I was hearing it, watching him move. And I go, I like that. So again, and I normally would not have tried to do a second artist because even then, not knowing how much it takes, how much time and all of that. But so that's how I decided that's how we did that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. How do you find these artists on Instagram? Like,
when I say there's so much talent, sometimes I get in my inbox, I'll get requests all the time, for a manager. Can you manage me? They'll send me, I've had people, I always listen to stuff, but I've been saying for a minute, I just am not right now. I realize I'm really thankful now, and God love them, and I'm always it's on my label, and I have his music, and I will promote it. But in terms of time and even promoting and dedicating that energy and finances to doing things, and I think that's the hardest thing for any artist, whether they're here or there. You need finance. You need to produce. You need to buy beats or whatever. And so I get that a lot. Please, can you help me? Can you hear this? Listen to this, listen. And I do. I'm always quick to say, give my opinion. I always try to be nice, constructive, but I'm just not in the market anymore, not right now. And for any other artist to managing is a whole, it's a different thing. It's a different thing.
So when you're a new artist manager and you're finding all these artists, I guess, like, how did you get your foot in the door? Like, how do you find opportunities? How do you network? you know, with other people, things like that?
One of the things that helped me so much when I first started was coming into Clubhouse. When I first started, I started going into different rooms. I had seen it. It was very new. I think it had been in effect. It might have been in effect more than a year, but when I became aware of it, they were not even accepting. It was just barely off the ground. And so it was like you had to be invited to be a Clubhouse member. And so, you know, I put my name in and the next day, whatever. And so Clubhouse, when I first started going into Clubhouse, I went in several rooms, several music rooms. And then the room that I'm in most of the time probably is No Egos room. And that is what, I had just started with being a manager. And so I was learning, you know, hearing different people come in the room and talk about what they do, meeting producers, people in the room, you know, so that helped a lot. Networking from there a lot. With being a manager, you really have to kind of step out of your comfort zone. You know, I'm not really a normally gregarious person, not like that, not until I get to know you. But I've had where, you know, especially in that room or in other places, when I started doing what I had started doing was becoming aware of concerts that were going on in my area, in the city, whatever. There was a concert not too long ago, but at the time it was an Omalay. I don't know if you've heard of Omalay concert. Who was here? He was here in New York, Gramercy. I think it was Gramercy Park. And I'm definitely not the person that, you know, would just go by myself. I mean, I'll go by myself anywhere. That's just me. But so I just started branching out and reaching out, going to shows, seeing artists, meeting managers, that kind of thing, getting cards. If I saw someone that, like the guy, for instance, that opened for Omalay. Now, Omalay is traveling, for example, and for each city you go to, you have to have opening acts.
Right.
He's not going to pull him from where he's been, so he's pulling him from that city. Okay. So that's how I started. That was one way I networked. As I mentioned earlier, we're doing some new things. That's because, again, when I decided to go to Lagos, and that's one reason why I decided to go to Lagos, because a lot of stuff goes on, and I'm like, you know what? Before I put my money up, put my energy up, my time up, I want to make sure you guys are legit. Are you serious? Yeah. Kind of thing. And so my family, of course, lost their mind. Okay, lost their mind. You're going where? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to. They're like, wait. And I applaud you. I know you're a veteran, so thank you what you said, because I was also in the military. I was in the Army. And so they know that I'm used to, even now, as I'm used to going, I'm just going to go. Normally, if I plan something, and if you don't want to go, that's fine. But normally, if I go, I'm the one that's going to plan, and I'm the one that's going to go. You're going to end up saying, can I go with you? And that's fine. But that's just me. So for me, it was like, I want to make sure you're legit. I want to make sure that you're serious. And I've never been to Africa, and I always wanted, it's on my dream list. So I'm going to go.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I did. And I got over there. We did some studio time. I was definitely not a tourist. I was supposed to go for a couple of weeks. I ended up extending my trip and staying for a couple of more weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, rented a house. It was really it. So yeah, that's how. But networking. So I know lately, well, I'm with the projects, but yeah, you just kind of have to step out of your comfort zone. I'm normally a quiet person until you get to know me, or I know you, but I don't do that. I'm just very active with what's going on in the entertainment world musically. I'm always posting something or looking at something or making a note of something to network. Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. What would you say is the kind of breakthrough moment when you started doing the artist management and have your own company? Like what happened, or what was the moment where you felt like you got your foot in and it was something that was special to you? Yep.
Yeah. I actually, when I was managing and I realized that I was doing it, I realized that the things that I was learning, and I'm the kind of person, if I don't want to keep asking someone to do it for me. So when I research something, I will research everything. If I don't know, I'm going to research. And so as I was researching and reading like things about licensing, you need, for instance, you might need a license. You need a license to play music. I started thinking, okay, maybe if I wanted to do a showcase, maybe not now because they're not here, but okay. So at that time you need a license, or maybe when I started thinking about the label itself, that was because the guys, they were asking me to sign them. And I really am. I know I am. I've been told I'm very fair. I'm over for the attorney that does this on a consulting basis. When I did the agreements, the contracts, she really wanted me to. She says, you can't. I won't tell you what I take, but she said, you can't take that long. I'm like, yeah, but they're trying to survive.
Right.
I'm not a big label, and I'm going to be limited, and so I need to be able to trust them. They need to be able to trust me. And so I'm not going to take 40 and 50%. I'm not doing that. Right. And so she was not happy at first, but she understood it. But then they were asking me to sign them. And I'm like, I can't sign you guys. I'm not a label. And the other part of it was, I didn't want to lose them. I really believe they're talented. And I'm like, you know what? Somebody's going to come along, and I hope they do. But until they do, I don't just want them to snatch them, because I'm spending time and money. And I think, I mean, I'm in it. I enjoy doing it, but I'm not just, it's not, we joke about that all the time on Clubhouse. It's not a hobby. Right. It was not, it was fast. It was quickly becoming not a hobby.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one day, I worked with the state, and somebody had asked me, I think they had DM'd me because I talked about nonprofits, because that's what I do in my job. I was a contract writer, so I knew about nonprofits and 501c3s and all that other stuff. And somebody asked me about that. And I said, maybe I should. I see business papers all the time. I said, you know what, let me look. And so I started looking into what does it take to be a label. I know what it takes to become a business. You register with the state and you get your tax ID number. So and stuff. So I went on, and then I was thinking, I've had that thought before. It's not the first time I've had this thought. Years ago, I had the thought of a friend of mine I was in the military. He was in the Air Force, and he wrote music like crazy. And that at that time I was performing with an agency called Friends Unlimited Entertainment, and they did a lot of shows. We did shows at the Apollo. We did, how Mother's Day show, Father's Day show. We did shows at Symphony Hall. But so at the time, when I met him, he was actually security, but he had been in the Air Force, and he had a book of songs he had written, and my name being Betty, and his name was Terry. His name was Terry Rivens, right? And of course, in back in the day, we would say stuff. That's where this name came from. As a matter of fact, the roof is on fire. The roof is on. Mm-hmm. And so and so we joked about it back then. It was like, okay, how about BTR, because it was Betty and Terry Rivens. He was the lyricist. I was going to be the singer, and there was a couple of things with I remember Dougie Fresh and some other people, but so yeah, that's how that started. So I had that idea years ago. So this time when they were asking me that, I'm like, you know what, maybe I could. So let me register the business. And that is also something I have not done the business, but I do. My family, I have a very large family. My mom and dad, that is, not me, but my mom and dad. My mom was one of 15 children. And my dad was one of 9, right? So we have a scholarship committee, a scholarship fund in my grandmother's name. And so and I say that because they wanted family members, somebody to just kind of step up. Can we get a scholarship foundation started? So myself and a couple other cousins had just kind of sat down. I sat down and did the mission statement. I sat down and I looked it up. And of course, and I just formulated, this is what it's going to be. The mission statement, this is what our whatever is going to be. And so I knew how to go about that. Plus I do contracts, like I said. So I chose the name. I went on and registered the business, which is Blow the Roof Productions. We're doing business as BTR Entertainment. And that's what made me go with the BTR. I'm like, let me do that BTR. And so, that's how I started with that. And so at that point, once I did that, and the label part came a little bit later, because again, I said, maybe I can. So I spoke to one of the attorneys again that I had seen on Clubhouse. I reached out to a couple and I spoke with one, and I'm like, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I could do this.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome story. Can you touch real quick for us on the publishing side of things? Because I know you also own your own.
I do. That came about as well because as I was learning, we know that when you're an artist, the minute you write it, it's yours, and I know you're the publisher, but artists, they want to do their art. They want whatever it is they're doing. They want to sing. They want to sing. Most artists are really not aware. They're not concerned with the small print, with the administrative stuff at all. And so I've actually had, like, even with friends of Richie and Ugo at the time, someone who wants to produce, but you need, not knowing, because I learned that as well in Clubhouse, you need a PRO. You need your you need your ISRC. You need, what is an IPI? What is all of that stuff? And then, of course, copywriting. And so I realized that, you know what? In order to do this stuff, I really need to learn how to do that. And publishing was something that I thought, well, what is publishing? There's another thing, not just for royalties, but also to make sure that you're getting your artist music out there. And I thought, that's me. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to try to do it. I'd love for you to help me. I want to learn from you, but I don't want to have to depend totally on you. So I'm going to learn how to do it. So I will co-publish in a minute. Matter of fact, we're working on something now with Lewis King. He's also in Clubhouse. Our next single for Richie, I'm probably going to be distributing through his company, which is Tribute. But and we will co-publish. Really, so again, it's networking, finding people that are compatible. Same thing with even when when I buy beats, when we do music. So that's what made me start publishing though, because I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this, and you pay the fee, you fill out the forms, they decide if you're good to go, if you should be, and they give you, and you're your publisher at that point. And then again, even from there, it's like learning it. It's different, the different types of publishing. As if you're just doing administrative stuff, are you going to be collecting royalties? Whatever. If you're an artist, you can be your own publisher, for example. But the whole thing is, are you able to get your music out there to where it needs to be? Because everything you do, like your performance rights organizations, they don't know what you're doing. So in order for you to get paid, you have to tell them. So when you make a song, you have to register that song so that you get paid. And that's where your IPI number comes in. Even when I do distribution, like DistroKid, like I said, I do it mostly right now. I'm doing it on DistroKid. They have their own ISRC, which I believe stands for International Standard Recording Code or something like that. And they have their own ISRC, but the thing with that is I reached out to do my own. I have my own because I wanted my artists under my ISRC. They have their own IPI, but also I have an IPI. So that's mine. You know, you're relying. I don't know if you're giving away royalties or not when I use your DistroKids ISRC. So I chose not to do that. So I have my own, and that identifies you all over the world because it's yours.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I know you talked a little bit about some of the artists you have. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now with them, like projects that's going on right now in the future?
Yeah, right now I'm working with Richie. Right now I have 4 tracks of Boy Prides that I'm on hold with 3. No Condition is out now. That is a project of Boy Pride. So we're promoting that. I'm promoting that. But Richie, To Demirs, it's been really great. It's been a year, but in the last 2 months maybe, it's just gotten even more exciting. We are actually doing, Richie is I want to do everything. Let me just put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want him as a brand. He wants to be a brand, and I want him to be a brand. So one of the things that I do, like we have in the works, because he's tall, I also want him to model.
Okay.
And to break into the modeling world, because I want him to be a spokesperson for later on. So he actually is doing, they do a Miss Ebony Nigeria pageant every year. I think it's kind of major. And so he's actually performing in that. It's October 23rd in Lagos. And he's actually walking the runway as well. So he's doing that. Yeah. We mentioned networking and stepping out of the comfort zone. When I was in Lagos, I was invited to Boomplay. The director Boomplay Africa is a gentleman that I met there, Mr. Dili Kadiri, and he invited us to. They were having a discovering new artists, so they had been running a campaign for new artists to discover new talent, and so he invited us to the finale. They were picking the winners and all those people. I think they picked maybe 4. They would get recording contracts and stuff like that. So we did that. And so in that process, Richie, at that point, they both did. In the last month and a half, 2 months, they've done Boomplay interviews. But in that process, I met a producer who is pretty well-known producer, who has won several, I guess they're Grammys, several awards, and a gentleman by the name of Phil Keys. So that one of the things that Richie always wanted to do was work with Phil Keys. So we saw him, and of course they're excited. I know who they are when you tell me who they are. I'm not I'm not really. And so I spoke with him and introduced myself. Again, that's stepping out of that comfort zone. That's not me. Hi, I'm Justice. And so I met him, and then later on when I came home, at one point, I'm like, let me reach out. He's probably not even going to answer me. He's not going to remember me or whatever, but we need to expand. So what the heck? And so I text a few times. I text again. And then one day he texts back. And so we are working. We hope the time is not set yet, but we have had conversations. And so he's going to be working because I want him to work with Richie. I explained to him, he was really nice about it. What I wanted, what Richie wanted, so he's going to be, because I want someone to know Richie's voice, get to know his style, whatever. So we are looking at that, and again, there's some place that we can go. And we also have 2 collabs coming up. We have a collaboration release that's due out right now. It's due out in October. Again, someone that had heard his music asked me to send him more music I did. They really liked it. We are doing a collaboration project that's due out in October. In the last couple of weeks, another person, it's so funny, I was on Clubhouse one day and there was somebody on there, I won't say the name, and they were congratulating him on some new thing that he was doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, so of course I'm nosy. I always go to the bio. And I went to the bio and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, okay. And the person in the bio, it had said, if I ask you to send me music, send it to this email. And I thought that was cute. So I said, because you don't want everybody to send you music. You're going to get music inundated with music, right? So I just reached out and I said, hey, told him who I was. And could you please ask us to send you some music?
Wow.
And I guess he thought it was cute. And he said, of course, send me your music.
That's awesome.
So I did. And he liked it. So we had a conversation that same day or the next day. And we are also, I'm waiting for some beats, as a matter of fact, right now. So we will be doing a collaboration with him and one of his artists. If not more. Excellent. So we're moving forward.
That's excellent. Yep.
That's great. So Betty, you've given us a lot of great information. Benito and I want to know, are you thinking about becoming a mentor? Because we both want to sign up.
That's funny. Yeah, you know what? As I learned, it's funny, when I'm on Clubhouse, one of the things I put when I introduce myself, or 30 seconds or whatever it is, I always say, and I will do that, I've always said, I've written so many copyrights, because I do copyright for them as well. And I said, I will copyright for you, I say to people. I would say, well, for a small fee, I'll copyright. I've seen how people, I understand how sometimes people can be so greedy. I always want to be fair. I always think that it's because it's so important. We had a discussion once on buying beats and integrity. And for me, you have to operate in integrity. If you don't, you get the reputation of not. If you send me your beats, they're not going any further than me and my artists. They know, at that time, artists, but any further than me and Richie. And, the discussion was like how do you, so I've never had a problem. It's between, so yeah. Other than that, I've had people reach out for different things. If I can do it, I will do it, and I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Benito, you wanna?
Yeah, let me see. So let's see. I wanted to know, you have any hobbies outside of music?
Traveling.
Okay.
I'm never home. I am I don't mind. I've been a solo traveler. My sister passed away a couple of years ago. She used to always be with my partner, but I was the one who would set up. She would say, "What are we doing this year?" And I would say, "Okay, we're going to go here, and then we're going to go to Belize." And we're going to go to Belize, and then we're going to take that Western cruise. Or this time, I don't want to do Panama yet. So we've done that. We did that a lot. So as a result, traveling, believe it or not, I love to, for quiet time, I'll read. I'm home, I live alone, I'm home. I'll come in here sometimes, I don't turn the TV on, and I'll read. I do like to sing. I am working on, I mentioned I'm working on a project narrating for someone, audio, that I met on Clubhouse. So yeah, just trying to set things up, helping them get to the States as well. I didn't even realize, that there's a performance visa. I didn't even realize that if you live in another country, you can have a performance visa to travel to another country, even here, to perform. I'm learning. So but my goal has been to get them educated, get them here so that they can have a better life. Hopefully their music will propel them up, and they can go back and forth to visit family. Family can come.
That's awesome. So Betty, before we get into having you share your social media links so people know how to get in touch with you, there's one question that we love to ask all of our guests. It's kind of a fun little question at the end. So if you could step into the shoes of anyone in the industry and kind of do what they do for a day or be them for a day, who would that be for you and why?
Ooh, I think I would be either Berry Gordy or no. I'm trying to say Brandy's mom. Brandy's
Okay.
mom.
Okay.
Yeah. I think. But I'm going to say Berry Gordy. Yeah. I like to soak up all that information and work with people. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So Betty, you want to give you the opportunity to share your information and also your artist information. Anything else you would like to share? You can go ahead and.
Yeah, Richie is again 2 Demirs. It's the number 2. 2 DEMEARS. He does that little and underscore. You don't have to have it, but that's him, and that's what he is on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. He is on Facebook. He's on Facebook as just Demirs, DEMEARS underscore. But if you look up, 2 Demirs, you'll find him pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
2 Demirs.
Excellent.
And I am Justice, all lowercase, Justice underscore BG for Betty Grier. Yep.
Great. Well, I think you gave us some excellent information tonight and some really great stories, and I think there's a lot of things that people can take away from what you shared tonight and be able to, go further in what they do with music. So we definitely want to say thank you again, and we appreciate you coming by and doing such an excellent job, and we hope to hear and see big things from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys so much. And it was fun.
Great, same here.
All right.
All right, everyone. So thank you for joining another Beyond the Rhythm podcast. I'm your host, Benito from Way Higher Music, and we have Asia the Writer here as my co-host as well, and also Betty Grier tonight. So everyone, we thank you and have a great night.
Good night.